The thing will tell you everything you want to know about that machine. You got full control of the machine. You can debug the machine. James, I'm probably leaving things out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sorry, but yes, I've had a lot more familiarity with using that because it's the same tool that we use on our VRF commercial systems as well.
With new administration, there could be a lot of changes to that. So just stay tuned. But as of right now, for the foreseeable future, we're supposed to be able to get parts for as long as we can.
Welcome to Talking Comfort Live, a show that reminds us just how cool HVAC can be by discussing today's hot topics in home comfort, from learning to laughing and sharing personal experiences to challenging the leading industry narratives. Our show goes deep inside the world of mini splits, heat pumps, and the inverter technology that brings efficient comfort to our products. And you can help us in our quest to make HVAC cool. We're looking for you to be a part of the show. If you have a question, whether it centers around application, installation, preventative maintenance, a future technology, or anything we share on the show, send it our way. We might take it live. Now grab a bucket and take a break. It's time for Talking Comfort Live.
I'm James McIntyre, Director of Commercial Sales, and let's go down the line and have everyone introduce themselves. First, we've got Justin.
Hello, I'm Justin Salisbury, Senior Director of Product.
We've got Daniel.
Hey, Daniel Hamrick with GREE. Yeah, you already knew that, right? So I am the Director of Sales for the East Coast.
We got Greg.
And Greg Brunts. I am the National Technical Support Specialist for Commercial team.
So let's talk about Talking Comfort Live. This will be our 5th episode this year. We do this once a month, of course. Why do we do Talking Comfort? It gives us a chance to provide you with product updates and timely technical insights. But more importantly, this is an opportunity for you to get clarification on something you might have experienced in the field or share with us something that you're proud of. I mean, bottom line is that you can give us feedback in a live format. We do that with the question mark icon to the right of the screen. So we would like to hear from you. We've all been out in the field and have some stories to tell, but we'd rather hear yours. And they're probably more appropriate for sharing, right? It includes a lot less colorful language and stuff, but that's all up until we get our after-hours show greenlit. But we've had some problems trying to get that done. Legal department, ethics, all kinds of things like that. So that's one thing. But again, that's the question mark icon to the right of the screen. You'll click that and submit your questions or comments. So on the agenda for today, we are generally going to be talking about the helpers that you bring that can help you in the field, right? Assist you from an application standpoint, troubleshooting standpoint, what have you. You've got tools in your bag, and we've got tools on our website. All right, so we're going to talk about some of those. We also have a product update for you. Everybody's always excited about that. Next, we're going to introduce you to the GREE Contractor Assistant mobile app. And we're also going to have a safety reminder that of course, it won't hurt for you to be reminded of. And it's likely something you'll want to share with everyone in your office or at your shop, regardless of your experience. We'll have links in the description so that you can jump straight to those segments if you need to go back and reference those. As always, these episodes are recorded and then shared on YouTube and in clips on various social media platforms. So please like and subscribe, comment wherever you see it. Keep it positive. I appreciate that. But if you get if you get heated about something, hey, you can do that on here through the question mark icon to the right of your screen. Or something that you may not know is that we discuss some of the comments that are left on YouTube videos. So we'll be talking about those as well. But what I would like to do is start off with a product update from Justin. That way, if you have questions about what he covers, we'll have a chance to discuss it today. Justin, take it away.
Thanks, James. So today I'm going to give a quick update on our R32 Ductless and FLEXX products. First, I'll just do kind of a quick review of the Ductless, then I'll really talk about the upcoming changes to the product coming a little later this year. So beginning with our high tier product, this is our Sapphire. It's the high efficiency model. This we're able to achieve up to 30 SEER2. It's available in 9K through 24K high wall models in 230 volts. And it has the heating capability down to -22, and it can cool down to -20 and up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Vireo, this is our mid-tier product. It's going to get up to 26 SEER2. It is available in 9K through 24K models and 230 volts on the high wall, heating capacity down to -22 Fahrenheit, cooling down to -20 and up to 122. Envo, this is the newer product for this year. It is a mid-tier fresh air product. Performance is very similar to the Vireo. It's going to be up to 26 SEER2, available in 9 through 24K models in a high wall configuration. It's going to get the heating down to -22, cooling down to -20 and up to 122. What makes this unique is it's going to have the smart humidity control, and it also will have an available fresh air kit. And we've done presentations on the fresh air kit before, but basically that little fresh air kit acts as a miniature ERV to exchange stale indoor air with fresh outdoor air. But because it has the ERV cube inside of it, you're going to get some humidity and thermal exchange as well, so you're not just pulling in raw outside air. However, this unit is available only by special order or container direct. It's not something that we're going to readily stock here in the United States. And of course, the entry tier product, our Levo, it's going to get up to 19 SEER2, so very high efficiency rating for an entry tier product. That is available in high wall models 9K through 36K in 230 volt. And in the 115 volt, you're going to have the 9K through 12K. This heating capacity is only going to be down to -13, cooling down to -4 and up to 115. All right, so that was a quick review on the one-to-one ductless. Now can I talk about one of the things that seems to trip people up? We get a lot of questions about this, and this is the all-match indoor units. So when I talk about all-match, we're talking about the cassette, the slim duct, the console, floor ceiling, and the newest one-way cassette. So these models are going to be compatible with one-to-one on a Sapphire, a Vireo, and an Envo, and on the multi-zone outdoor unit. And you can do multi-zone up to 5 zones with the current models. These sizes are 9K through 24K in 230 volt configuration. And based upon the outdoor unit capacities, with Sapphire, Vireo, Envo, and the multi-zone, you're going to have the ultra heat capacity down to -22, and you're going to get cooling down to -20 and up to 122. So again, I want to point out that with these models, the 9K through 24K, these are what's compatible with Sapphire, Vireo, and Envo, and the multi-zone, okay? And the reason why you see this is, on Sapphire, Vireo, Envo, we don't make a 30 or a 36K. And on multi-zone, a 24K is the biggest unit you can put on a single port. So now we'll move on to the 30 and 36K models. So with the slim duct, cassette, floor ceiling, new floor standing model, these will be available in 30 and 36K models in 234 volt only. However, due to the size being 30 and 36K, these are only compatible with the Levo in 30 and 36K. So what we're seeing is 9 through 24 is not compatible with the Levo, only on the 30 and 36K. And so because of the outdoor unit capacity, you're only going to get the heating on these down to -13, cooling down to -4 and up to 115. Again, that seems to be a bit of confusion, but in all of our literature that you can find on greecomfort.com, clearly spelled out what is compatible with what. All right, now here's the multi-zone. Eventually, we're going to have up to 6 zones with the introduction of the 55K, but currently you're going to have just up to 5 zones. So as of right now, we can do up to 5 zones, available in sizes 18 through 42. And we will introduce the 48 and the 55 later this year. In fact, I think we already have some literature on the 48K available online. We won't see that product in the US for a few months. The 48K, that'll only be a 5 zone. It is the 55K That's going to be the 6-zone outdoor model. So again, these are compatible with our high walls, cassette, slim duct, floor ceiling, and the floor console, up to 42K outdoor units in the multi-zone. Later this year, we'll be releasing that 48K and the 55K. And again, I just want to emphasize right now on the 42K model and later the 48K model, that'll be a 5-zone system. The one that gets you the 6 zones is going to be the 55K that we release at the end of the year. You're going to get as high as 21 SEER 2, and it does have the ultra heat capability down to -22, and it will cool all the way down to -22 and up to 118 degrees. So again, going back through all of our ductless equipment, we're going to have pretty much anything to meet your needs, regardless of whether you live all the way up in Maine or down in South Texas. We've got you covered. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the FLEXX unitary split system. There's been a couple of changes on that product. Right now, with what we have in stock on the FLEXX Ultra, everything's in a 1-to-1 configuration. So as you can see, the sizes available are 24, 36, 48, and 60. And each size has a dedicated outdoor unit and a dedicated indoor unit based on the size. On the old 410A models, we had 2 outdoor units, and you can change the capacity with the flip of a dip switch. The current version of FLEXX Ultra doesn't have that. It's all dedicated sizes. So if you order one of these today from our warehouse, you're going to get something that looks like this. But as with the last FLEXX Ultra, you're going to get that ultra heat capacity down to -22. And of course, on the cooling, you're going to look at 5 degrees all the way up to 129 degrees. So here's the change that's coming to the FLEXX Ultra product. We're going to go back to 2 sizes on the outdoor. So as you can see here, it's going to be available in a 36K and a 60K. And with the 36K, you're going to switch the dip switch on the outdoor unit to get you a 24K capacity or a 36K capacity. Same thing on the 5-ton. You just change a dip switch to determine whether you're getting a 48K or a 60K. And then depending on your application, you'll buy the indoor model that corresponds with that. On the indoor models, you can notice that there was a model number change. So on the first slide, the indoor model says FXU. On the second slide, you see the models to the indoor unit change to an FXE. The reason for that is because of the introduction later this year of the FLEXX Eco in R32. So here's the FLEXX Eco. What we're doing is reducing SKUs by allowing the dip switches in the outdoor unit, but we're also going to a common air handler. So no longer will you have an Ultra air handler and an Eco air handler. Everything will use the Eco style air handler. Now this is what the Eco will look like. And because the Eco has always included the 1/2-ton sizes, there are going to be 3 outdoor units instead of just 2. So we'll start with a 30K to get the 2-ton or the 2.5. The 3-ton will be dedicated, just one size, so no dip switches to change on the 3-ton. And then you'll have a 60 or 5-ton outdoor unit, which will cover the 4-ton and the 5-ton. And then with the air handlers, you see there's just one additional air handler in there versus the Ultra matchups, and that's the introduction of the 2.5. You will see that the 42 is missing. So the 3.5, there is no 3.5 available. We're looking at maybe introducing that, but based off of the old FLEXX Eco and just the market data, we don't see a lot of the 3.5s moving. It seems like the 3 or the 4-ton covers most applications. Just cover, this is what the current product looks like. We only have the FLEXX Ultra. It's all dedicated sizes. And then with the new FLEXX Ultra that will be brought in later this year, we're going to go back to the 2 outdoor units with the dedicated indoor unit sizes using a common air handler with the FLEXX Eco. So again, the FLEXX Eco is going to have 3 units on the outdoor. Another big change for the FLEXX Eco, I will say, is the performance. On the old version, it was 15.5, 16 SEER type entry tier product. With this, we've increased the SEER ratings HSPF and the EER. And this is more of a southern high efficiency model. The South, they focus less on, say, HSPF or cold climate technology, and they focus more on maybe the EER. So we've worked to get those ratings up. And of course, the SEER is also higher. And because this unit doesn't have the ultra heat, it only heats down to 5 degrees. We were able to get rid of that ultra heat compressor and focus on that higher efficiency in the cooling season. Those are the major changes there in the FLEXX and the Ductless product. If you have any questions about the changes or any of the existing equipment, feel free to click the question mark icon, submit your question. Or if you're watching this on YouTube after the air date, feel free to submit your questions in the comments. So that's all I have. Thank you. Back to you, James.
Let's take a look and see if we have any questions that have come in during that time. Just as a reminder, you can submit questions and comments via the question mark icon to the right of your screen. Greg, do we have any questions that have come in so far?
We do. We have a couple of questions come in. So
Great.
the first question is probably geared more towards Justin. Was Scott asked this question, and it's any word on the XPAC 2.0?
Yeah, so he's referring to the R32 version of the XPAC. We're hoping to have the stateside towards the end of the year. It's currently still in development, working through some things. We've had some disruptions in the factory, so it's kind of pushed some of the timelines out on new product development. But as of right now, we're hoping to get that in within, probably late Q3, early Q4, hopefully. So just stay tuned.
Gotcha.
Okay. Another question here is probably more toward the product team and Justin. On GREE Multi-36 with the Levo 9 heads, are the dampers to be closed on heads not calling for heat while the fourth head is calling for heat? I'm guessing he's talking about the louvers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the louvers. So if the unit's not calling, the unit's off, the louvers are going to be closed. If it's the fan's on, so circulating any kind of air, the louvers should be open. So generally, you'd want to make sure on a multi-zone that every indoor zone is in the same mode. That way you don't get a mode conflict. Personally, I just recommend, leave the unit on, set the temperature, set the mode, and just let it do its thing. I mean, if somebody's, manually going in messing with the louvers, I generally don't recommend that unless there's a specific reason, like you don't want air blowing directly on you or something, then you can change the louver position. But other than that, if the fan's on, the louver should be open.
All right, we have another question here. Mark sent this question in. I think we're actually talking about older product, but Justin, I'll let you answer this one. Ceiling cassettes, and he put in parentheses the model number, a cast 12 HP 230 V1 R32 AH. No, it's not older product. I'm sorry. So again, that's a cast 12 HP 230 V1 R32 AH. He said that his distributor has been unable to order these. What specific steps or process do they need to follow to get these ceiling cassettes in stock?
So that's that
part of the question, but I'll let you answer that, and then I'll do the second part.
Yeah. So as of right now, we're kind of in a bad situation. I'm sure everybody knows what's going on with the tariffs. As of right now, everything's looking like there's 145% reciprocal tariff on that, on top of, the other tariffs that were already on the product. I think there was a 7.5, then a 25, and then there's an additional 20 for the fentanyl tariff, and then the reciprocal. As of right now, we're working through that to see if there's some things we can do with how we import the equipment. But as right now, people just aren't going to pay that 145% additional tariff. And that's why, a lot of people like Baker and others have put those orders on hold for just right now. Looks like we found some relief on the indoor units. So I think on those cassettes, we should be able to get those ordered pretty quick. I know that, we Tradewinds already had some on order and they're coming in this month. We're beating the timeline on the tariffs because we planned ahead, not even knowing about the tariffs. But just, stay tuned. We talk to, Baker and the other distributors pretty often. So they should be able to get you some of those ordered here before too long.
Okay, so the next part of that question, I'm looking up the answer now. The second part of the question was GREE Multi, the MUL 42 HP 230 V1 R32 AO. For installation planning, what is the manufacturer's specified maximum allowable line set length for this unit? So I'm looking that up right now. Let's see.
Where are you finding that information, Greg?
The submittal.
Where's the submittal, Greg? GreeComfort.com.
GreeComfort.com.
Right.
So on the 42, the maximum piping length or equivalent length is going to be 328 feet. The piping length to the furthest indoor unit is 82 feet, and the max elevation you can have between the indoor and outdoor is 82 feet.
Well, I guess Justin's faster than me because I just got to that segment on the submittal. But that's exactly what the submittal showed. So yeah, I encourage you guys. Let's run through that real quick. So if you go under resources, and then we go down to documents, then you go to system documentation. Yep. Then we're going to go down to multi-zone on the left-hand side to skip to. And then we can go to multi R32. And we'll go down to the submittals, and we're going to go to the MUL 42 HP. And then if we scroll down, it's on page 3, I think. Right. Whoops, stop. Can you blow that up a little bit? Just a little. All right, now come down a little bit. And a little bit more. Right there. You'll see that pipe length minimum maximum that he quoted to you. Minimum is 10 feet to any indoor unit. Maximum total piping is 320 feet, 28 feet. Pre-charge line length is for 164 feet. And there's your pipe length to the furthest indoor unit and max pipe elevation. That's where Justin was getting all that information from. So that's your cheat sheet, guys. That's the best way to do it, is go to that submittal, and it gives you all your planning, that, as you would call it in that question, to be prepared for the jobs ahead of time and know your min-max line lengths and all that kind of stuff. So, Daniel, I'll let you read off the next question. How about that?
While we're talking about the multi there, Justin, when will the air handler for the multi be available?
Yeah, so Daniel's referring to a vertical air handler that we're currently developing for the multi-zone. So the original plan was to have kind of everything ready for production in June. Like I said, we've had some delays due to everything that's going on. So again, that's been kind of pushed back to the end of the year. We know it's something that we really need to release because the other brands have it. A lot of applications for those smaller vertical air handlers on multi-zone. So we're working diligently to get those produced and into the country. As of right now, it's just currently on delay. It's unfortunate news.
Thanks, Justin. All right. So another question that we had there was, will there be a cased coil available for the FLEXX Ultra to be used in a dual fuel application?
Yes, absolutely. So we just got all the certifications done. So the cased A coils The ratings are on HRI. I will say that those are it's a coil only rating. And so just like the last time, how you have to rate a coil only based off of the AHRI conditions, the energy calculation they use is very high. So you're only going to see like 15.5 SEER on that, unfortunately. But the upside to that is you can now match that with pretty much any gas furnace that's available out there. Those are ready for production now, and based off the new information that we're getting on import codes and everything else, it looks like we're going to be able to get those in at a lower tariff rate. So we'll be getting an order in here pretty quick. So we should have those within a few months. I know it's unfortunate that we don't have them here right now for the summer, but we will get them here hopefully within about 3 months.
Well, we had another question come in here that I think is perfect for James. So I'll read the question. James, you get to answer it.
Okay, we'll see.
Arif Hussein wanted to know, what is the difference in refrigerant piping between a multi-zone and a MultiPRO?
Well, that is my good friend Arif, and yeah, you're right. As soon as I hear his name, it's usually a pretty good question for me. Yeah, I appreciate that, Arif. So the main difference is that the piping for a multi-zone is a home run. All the piping goes back out to the outdoor unit. With a MultiPRO system, instead of going all out to the outdoor unit, you were piping from like a main trunk line of piping. So you were either utilizing Y branches or headers. With the Y branches, you could split off to wherever you need to split off, go into indoor units, like a trunk line, just like for ductwork. Or you can use a header, and that would be more like a non-trunk system or like a spider duct system, but for piping. So effectively what you're doing in that case is instead of that header that you're piping to on a multi-zone outdoor unit, you can place that inside. So instead of having 5 line sets running up the side of a house or a building or whatever, with a giant hole that goes along with it, you can pipe your 3/8, 5/8 line set, which would be the most common one that we use, up through an eave or whatever, pipe that, and then split all of that piping under a house, in the attic, above a drop ceiling, that kind of thing. So it can be more convenient to use MultiPRO and pipe a MultiPRO than it can be on a multi-zone. But it absolutely just depends on the application. So hopefully, yep, go ahead.
I've always said I think it's a cleaner look. It's a much cleaner look because you only got one set of refrigerant lines coming to the outdoor unit.
Right. If you've got, if you're a line set cover salesman or something, then piping all out to the outdoor unit, that might help out. You can sell 5 of those. But yeah, so you can split off going into the attic or under the house or whatever. We get a lot of questions on what's better to use, Y branches or headers. Again, completely depends on the application. If you've got a couple of units on one side of the building and then one unit on the far side of the building, it may be more advantageous to use Y branches. But if you're able to locate a header assembly in a central location, you may be able to keep it all pretty short. And then of course, if you're running pipe, and you might be running 1/4 and 3/8, to those indoor units, and it's pretty simple, pretty easy to do. For my own house, if we had headers at the time, I would absolutely have a header. Holding those Y branches in place and brazing them in and all that can be more difficult than just simply mounting a header and piping into those. If you don't know what those look like, we've got videos for Y branch installations for MultiPRO and header installations for MultiPRO. So check those out on YouTube or on our website directly. Any more questions on that?
Not on that particular topic.
Or, sorry, any more questions, period?
Yeah, we've got a good question in there.
They're all
Andy.
questions, right, Dan?
This one's one I wanna talk about. How come there are no wall heads listed on the submittals for R32 multi-zone Vireo and Levo wall units? Specifically is what Andy's talking about. So I was a little confused on that myself, because in the past they've been listed with the multis on the submittals, and it's changed to where they're listed under the indoor unit. Is that correct, Justin?
Yeah, so what we've done, and this kind of follows what AHRI does, and this is true even with the last version of the 410A model. For multi-zone, we would do a separate submittal with just an indoor head. So if you looked at the Vireo, Levo, et cetera, we just showed the indoor head, and you could provide that submittal with the multi-zone submittal. But the reason why you don't see the indoor heads on the multi-zone submittal is because on AHRI, everything is based off of the outdoor unit when you're dealing with multi-zone. All the ratings, all the capacities, everything, it's all based on that outdoor unit. And then when you go and start looking at extended ratings, that's based off of connected capacity. So what we're saying there is it doesn't matter what type of indoor unit you're using. What matters is the outdoor unit information and the connected capacity. That's what everything's based off of. And if you look at the HRI certificates, there's no direct matchup between a multi-zone outdoor and any of the indoor units. It says on the certificate it's either mixed, ducted, or ductless. So depending on, if you're using all wall mounts or ducted or a mix, that's the HRI certificate you would pick to show your certification. But as far as the submittals go, the ratings, performance, capacity, and all that stuff doesn't matter. It's all based off of just the outdoor unit. And there again, if you're needing something to show an engineer on an indoor unit, we can get those separate indoor unit submittals based on whatever you need, just in case they need dimensions or what have you, right? So, and then we've got a lot of indoor units now, especially with some of the new things we've added on R32. If we tried to add everything in there, it'd be a massive book for each submittal, right? So we're trying to just keep everything clean and simple.
The simpler the better.
What was that, Daniel?
Said the simpler the better.
Oh, okay. It broke up a little bit. I didn't know if everybody caught it. Yeah, no, I agree. I think simpler is always the way to go. I think everybody agrees with that. Okay.
We do have a couple more questions here, and I'd like to get after them. I think we've got time to do it.
Okay.
So, and Daniel, I think you might have dealt with this yourself, but I'm pretty sure it's come up before, and this is what I think is going on here. So Chris asked, and this is a follow-up to, the multi-zone units. We talked about that question. He asked about if you got one head calling and you got on the R32 and you got multiple indoors and the other units aren't calling, shouldn't the dampers go closed? Well, I think, and it's what he's saying, is why aren't mine going closed on the one units that are not calling? So, but I think, and I could be wrong on this, but I think if he looks up in there with a flashlight and looks at that blower wheel closely, that blower wheel's in a real slow whisper heat movement. So it's, even though it may not be calling, if that blower is moving there just a little bit, it's got to keep them louvers open. And correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is they did that to start getting a more accurate temperature reading of the room.
It's air sampling.
So
yeah, it's making sure the sensor is reading the proper temperature of that room, so you're maintaining a tight dead band of temperature.
So yeah, and if you look in there, man, that wheel is like barely spinning. It ain't hardly, it's just enough to stir the air a little bit. So, all right. And then there was on MultiPRO, what about control wiring with the header? I mean, we were talking about refrigerant piping, not really control wiring, but MultiPRO is a different animal than mini splits. As far as control wiring goes, that's a daisy chain. It's an 18-2. Starts at the outdoor unit, goes to your first indoor, second indoor, third indoor, in a daisy chain pattern like that, and ends at the last indoor unit. If you want more information on that, I would go to our website, go under MultiPRO, look at the quick start guide, and we give you wiring diagrams and stuff like that as far as how you wire those machines. And then So the last question to come in, I don't really think applies to us, but thought I'd spit it out anyway. With the 454, have any safety features for mitigation of shutoffs on the newer units? Well, none of our units have R454B in it. So.
Yeah, so we've gone to R32, not R454. And based off of some of the invoices I've seen online, a lot of contractors are thanking us for that. It's a little cheaper than the 454. But yes, yeah. Well, it's like 800 for one,
Yeah.
400 for the other for a drum.
Yeah, I'll sell you R32 for half price. How about that?
But yeah, the answer is yes. Regardless of you're dealing with our equipment or the competition's R454, there are safety features in there dictated by UL. Now, some certain single zone units out there like R9 and 12K and the 115 volt, some of the other units that have been manufactured, they may not have them because the threshold for safety is, I believe it's 1.9 kilograms of refrigerant, or it's about 3.9 pounds. So if the unit has less than that, it doesn't need a refrigerant leak detection sensor in it. But on our 230 volt equipment, all the indoor heads will have a refrigerant leak detection sensor. So if it detects 10% concentration or more of that A2L refrigerant on the indoor unit, it will shut down the outdoor unit. It shuts down the refrigeration circuit, and it will turn the fan to turbo and will try to dilute that refrigerant out. If you go back and watch our Talking Comfort Live show from AHRI, I think we released that back in February. We do a really good segment on the A2L refrigerants and just how flammable they truly are. They're dangerous, but they're not what people thought they were. But we really go into depth about the safety of the refrigerant and everything like that. So, but short answer is yes, there are safeties built into the units.
So Justin, just one quick comment I want to make to what you said there, just so that people don't get confused, as I did when I was messing around with one of the units down in our lab. When it does go into alarm, it doesn't necessarily shut off the outdoor unit completely immediately, but it does shut off the compressor immediately.
Right.
So just don't get alarmed if you look out there and see that fan's still on. Doesn't mean the compressor's running. So, and I did verify that. It does shut off the compressor immediately.
Yeah, it's just shutting off the refrigeration circuit.
Right. So I just tried a little better way to clarify it, just to make sure the whole audience knows that, hey, just because the fan's turning doesn't mean it's actually pumping refrigerant anymore.
Right. And as a reminder, our units are very quiet.
I couldn't tell the difference.
as Greg found out, he said, hey, this compressor's not shutting off, and then a couple minutes later, oh yeah, never mind, shut off. Yeah, they're very quiet units. Okay. Let's see. That was it for the questions for now, right? So next, we're going to talk about our helper tools that we've developed here at GREE that we've been putting together. Let's kick it off with a quick clip introducing our GREE Service Tools. Go ahead and run that video.
GREE HVAC pros, it's time to supercharge your troubleshooting. Say sayonara to guesswork and hello to GREE Service Tools, the ultimate way to diagnose, monitor, and optimize GREE HVAC systems with precision and speed. From full MultiPRO system commissioning and control to real-time multi-zone and single-zone data readings, these tools make you smarter and every job faster. Imagine solving an E6 in minutes with 100% confidence. If GREE units could talk, what would they say? To find out with help from the absolute best tool for the job, GREE Service Tools. Smarter troubleshooting, faster repairs. Scan the QR code or visit the link to start saving today. With GREE, we're by your side. And now you can have us in your tool bag.
This is the voice I put on for the video. A really professional, gravelly sounding voice. Yeah, so let's talk about those GREE Service Tools real quick. We've got multiple tools depending on the products that you're working with, right? For the on the single zone, it enables you to quickly diagnose, monitor, and also optimize those systems. So from a troubleshooting and unit simulation standpoint, these are compatible with I'm sorry, you can monitor all the data. Like I've had some familiarity with using these in the past. Being able to see those temperatures, seeing what the units are looking at, gives you various data points. You may not even have to break out, like, I mean, of course, if the unit's empty, you might need to use your gauges, right? But you can look at the temperatures, you can look at the compressor speed, the fan speed, that kind of thing. Also help you troubleshoot error codes, right?
Yeah, the one thing that I like about the single zone service tool is it is compatible with single zone and multi-zone. But when you're connected to a multi-zone unit for data monitoring, you're only going to see the indoor information of the indoor unit you're connected to. You'll see all the outdoor unit information, and you'll see if you're connected to circuit A, you're going to see circuit A's indoor information. If you move the wiring over to B, you will see the outdoor unit information and the B indoor unit information. So it does work for both single and multi-zone. The other thing I really like about it is the fact it will simulate. So when you have an E6 air code, you can literally hook up to the outdoor unit and simulate the indoor unit to see if you get an E6 still or not. And you can also do it using the service tool hook up just to the indoor unit and simulate the outdoor to see if you get an E6 air code. So you can quickly determine whether the problem's in the outdoor unit or in the indoor unit and know where to go from there. So the multi-zone tool, that one is really only for diagnostics. It doesn't simulate or anything like that, but it is for the multi-zone tools, and you will be able to see all the outdoor information, and you'll be able to scroll through page to page and see all of the indoor information. And then the MultiPRO, I can't tell you how, I can't begin to tell you how awesome that tool is. The
Right.
thing will tell you everything you want to know about that machine. You got full control of the machine. You can debug the machine. James, I'm probably leaving things out.
Yeah, yes. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but yes, I've had a lot more familiarity with using that because it's the same tool that we use on our VRF commercial systems as well. So yeah, we've got it. It's an absolute handy tool. You'll see everything from your DC bus bar voltage. So if you got an error code related to the voltage being produced by the inverter board, it gives you that voltage reading. You don't have to go, poking around trying to find test points, that kind of thing. It gives it to you. It gives you the hertz of the system, and on those systems, you can have a whole lot of thermistors, right? Temperature sensors. You've only got so many thermocouples that you can hook up and go measure temperatures and all that. This has got every single data point for the service, or excuse me, for those sensors, so you can see all those temperatures simultaneously. You can see the performance of every indoor unit that's on the system. With that MultiPRO service tool, we also have a method for connecting anywhere on the D1, D2, or G1, G2 communication line. So if it's raining or cold or too hot outside, or you just feel extra sensitive that day or whatever, you can get all of that service information from that service tool inside or out. If
Quit
you're
making fun of me.
well, I mean, I've been there too, like looking at that ladder going, I'll just connect it down here. We'll just figure it out. Still have to go up to the roof at some point anyway, right? But you can use that, and it gives you all of the information that you could ever want out of those systems. And it also does the simulate as well, which has helped us in the past for simulating things. If you're thinking that maybe you've got a communication problem because it's a board or something like that, you can prove that it is or it isn't, right? Using these tools. So
and then the FLEXX R32, as the brochure says, it's coming soon. Really don't want to share part numbers or model number of it or anything else until we got them in hand and we're able to sell them, because I do think there's going to be a great interest in that service tool. So I did have a prototype, and I've messed around with it a little bit. It's going to be as very similar to as far as diagnostics goes to the MultiPRO tool and all the stuff you can see off of that.
Right.
It's going to be
Also-
a great improvement over the, you know, we had nothing previously for the FLEXX, so that's going to be great.
And I guess something else to put out there too, just so I don't forget, James, I didn't mean to cut you off. The MultiPRO service tool will be backward or forward compatible to the R32 version of MultiPRO when we have them. The FLEXX R32 service tool is only going to be for FLEXX R32. It will not work on a FLEXX 410A system.
Right. One of the things that I like about it is, you know, instead of being this like magic black box or whatever that you walk up to, you have no idea what it's doing, you know, that kind of thing. You're like, well, I got a good delta. I guess everything's cool. You know, this reveals, you know, like the data points that the system is using to determine, you know, how it's operating, how fast it should operate, that kind of thing. You know, I like being able to see, like, if there was an intermittent error code, let's say it's, you know, overcurrent protection or high discharge temp protection or something like that. You go out there, customers already reset power and got it running again, but you know, you come out there and it's like, I don't know, 75 degrees outside. Maybe it's not yet producing an error code, but you can see that the compressor speed, you know, like as it gets a call, it speeds up, you know, the discharge temp's rising. It starts to slow the compressor back down once it gets too hot, and then just kind of hangs out and chills there. Not, I mean, maybe on that day when it's 75 degrees outside, you got a good delta, but as soon as it's 90 degrees the next day, you can see where that would go. You know, the more heat that I add to that system, the higher the discharge is going to go. Well, you take that, and then your knowledge of HVAC, and you go, okay, why is my discharge pipe getting hot? You know, is it because I don't have enough refrigerant? Well, the cool thing about our systems is that, yeah, fine, you don't have enough refrigerant when it's 75 outside, nobody's complaining. You know, if you don't have enough refrigerant when it's 95 outside, maybe that's the time when people complain. But with the service tool, you might be able to use that to, you know, do pre-season checks, you know, that kind of thing before it becomes a problem. You know, you don't necessarily have to be a hero on a Saturday or July 4th weekend or something like that. You can just be less of a hero, I guess, you know, on your pre-season call. But yeah, I like the fact that you can see all the data, especially on the MultiPRO and VRF side of the business, but it's helpful nonetheless. Anything you guys would like to add on the service tools?
Please order them.
Yeah, get them. Let's do that. Tools are only good when you have them, right? As we learned with micron gauges, if you don't put batteries in them, you might as well not even try, right?
Well, and as James talked about before, you can go on MultiPRO systems. The wired controllers do have some of that diagnostic information, which is great if that's what you got. But to be able to have one point of location and see the service information for the entire system in the palm of your hand, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It's so much more simpler. If I get a guy on the phone and we're diagnosing a MultiPRO system and he has that service tool, I guarantee you that phone call is going to go a whole lot faster than if I'm having to have him go try to pull data off of separate controllers.
Yeah, you know, speaking of which, you know, when you get the text message from our tech support department, that's something else too. If you've got that tool hooked up and you start sending pictures, you know, via text message of the data, you know, people are, you know, often on the phone but replying back to you already, you know, already kind of conferencing with you, you know, via text message. If you've got those screenshots and all that, you know, it might be pretty quick. You look at the, you know, we look at the data and go, hey, go ahead and check this, whatever. And maybe you don't even have to talk to somebody on the phone. No offense, Greg. You know, maybe you don't have to talk to somebody on the phone and go through the whole rigmarole or whatever. You've got all the information at your fingertips, and, you know, it gets us the information too. And, you know, everybody gets done quicker. You can spend your time, I don't know, washing the coil out or something, you know, before you leave. We do have a question about that from a YouTube video from @ToddJames8830. We are doing mostly GREE FLEXX, GREE FLEXX Eco, and GREE HVAC, which I'm happy about. Will this tool work with those systems? So to answer your question, there are some specific tools that you can use, but you guys could tell me which ones that you can use or can't use. What was that again? We just reviewed that.
Yeah, so with the FLEXX Be on the lookout for those. We'll be releasing those soon. Had a few refinement we had to do at the factory and all that stuff. So we'll be getting them on order and bringing them stateside here within the next couple of months. We don't currently have one for the XPAC yet, or at least not a timeline. That is currently in development. So the XPAC uses a different communication protocol from the FLEXX and the MultiPRO, or the Ductless products even. So that has to be its own separate debugger tool that's currently being developed.
Gotcha. I know this is an off-the-cuff question, but I mean, maybe one of you guys know. Do you know if the FLEXX R32, if that's connecting via the RS485, or is that a plug in the board, or do we know that?
I'm not sure. I hadn't looked at it. Greg,
I'm sorry to say that again. I missed it.
Where did we connect that service tool to when we were looking at it?
There's a pigtail hanging off the unit that you plug up.
Okay, it's on the indoor, right?
Oh, it's on the outdoor.
It's on the outdoor. Okay.
I don't remember if there was one on the indoor, but I do believe there's one on the outdoor. It's a pigtail.
I think there is one on the indoor because I saw somebody was asking me how to plug in the heat kit the other day, and they sent me a picture, and there was a comm plug sitting there, so that's probably what it's for.
Yeah. Okay. So I could definitely see, you know, if the units are connected indoor and out via the RS485 connection, you know, being able to all of the data.
Yeah,
Yes.
Even if you're using the 24-volt connection, if you have the H1 and H2, even if you're not using GREE's controller, if you connect H1 and H2 outside and inside, then you should be able to read the data from the service tool from the outdoor unit or the indoor unit pigtail. I think you're right. I think there is a pigtail on both, but don't quote me on that because it's been a while since I've looked at that machine. But I know for sure it's on the outdoor, but I can't remember if there's one on the indoor. But if you've seen a picture on it, that's probably what it is, Daniel.
Right. I mean, I would definitely contend if you're able to speed up and slow down and all that, like kind of matching the outdoor unit capacity and doing all that stuff that communicating systems would do, you know, being able to see that data may be really helpful too, if you've got the wires available. So you know, I don't think we need to sell you guys any more on it as far as the information that's available, how much that might be able to help you and us help you, you know, help me help you type thing, right? Yeah, so let's if you take a look at the model numbers that are on the screen there, we've got for the single zone, we've got the GREE T2 A3AD. So that should be easy to remember, right? The next one is the MZ, like multi-zone 230-volt tester, 230V tester. That's the model number for that. And then the MultiPRO we didn't get that fancy on the naming convention there. It's a CE42-24/F/C, or as we just call it, the CE4224FC. Okay, so those are the model numbers for it.
And those of you that are wondering, the Greg in the GREE T2 A3AD, there's not got anything to do with my name, because if I was going to put my name on it, it'd have been on the MultiPRO one.
I don't believe you. So there'll be another tool coming out pretty soon, a Daniel, a Justin, a James. All right, speaking of helpful tools, let's talk about our, you know, how we help our contractors in the field with the GREE Contractor Assistant.
Contractors, meet your new best friend on the job, the GREE Contractor Assistant. It's a free tool that lets you search our quick tip video library right from your phone. Installation, troubleshooting, product knowledge, all model specific and all at your fingertips. Just visit GREEPros.com on your smartphone or scan the QR code on the next GREE unit you see. Install instructions worn out? No problem. Need immediate help? No waiting on hold. Fix it faster, reduce callbacks, stay sharp. Go to GREEPros.com on your phone today to meet your new best friend in the field. At GREE, we're by your side, and with the GREE Contractor Assistant, we're on your phone.
I'm going to say we have more helpful videos out there as far as an air conditioning manufacturer goes. We've got more videos out there than I think anybody else, anybody that I've been able to find. They're also very high quality videos. You know, it's not just, anyway, some of the other videos you may have seen. But one of the downsides to having so many helpful videos like that is that it can be kind of difficult for you to parse through them and find the information that you're looking for. So this, the GREE Contractor Assistant, it is a search tool that you use through your smartphone that organizes the quick tip technical videos for on-the-spot installation, troubleshooting, and product guidance. In that tool, you can, let's see here. It says we can simulate an indoor and outdoor unit to diagnose missing components. We have it is a key tool for using for the E6 communication error code troubleshooting. How you go about using that, you would go to GREEPros.com on your mobile phone or on your cell phone. You will go to GREEPros.com. Or you could scan the QR code on your next GREE unit. There's QR codes on our units. You scan that and it will take you to GREEPros.com. Why you might need that, why every contractor needs it, is that you'll get immediate on-demand support. So as long as you've got some kind of internet connection and a smartphone, you can at least start getting some type of support. You're no longer just reliant on who you can call. You've got a lot of helpful information at your fingertips. All of these videos and everything that we've got come from our team. Anything that can help us help you, anything that we have determined to be helpful, we've got in some kind of video. So you're no longer having to wait on hold or hunt through manuals, and you can find the instructions that you need in seconds. You can filter by model to ensure that you're watching the right, the right video for the job. If you're looking for some information on a Levo and you click on a MultiPRO unit, may not be, it's helpful information, but not right now. So you can filter by model. It's also accessible anywhere, so you can visit GREEPros.com on any cell phone device or scan the QR code, as we've mentioned before. The QR code is also on the installation guide that's included with the units. You can reduce, go ahead.
My suggestion to the older contractors out there, get one of your young technicians that works for you, hand them your phone, have them bookmark the page for you in your mobile bookmarks, and then have them show you how to get to them. Then that way you don't ever have to worry about what was that site again. You'll have in your mobile bookmarks.
I have a question for you, Greg. Are you speaking from experience that you needed to hand the phone to someone younger?
If I had somebody to hand it to, I would have. But no, I just beat my head on the wall a few times and I finally figured it out. But if you got that young tech, you just say, here, do this for me.
I guess that's one way to do it.
Like some of the stuff that I have Jesus do. Hey, do this. You're much younger than me.
That is true. He is a very helpful gentleman as
Yes,
far as
he
that
is.
stuff goes. One of the reasons why you might want to use this, especially if you've got technicians, is that you can empower your technicians to, complete the job on the first time. You're minimizing the downtime for your homeowner or for your building owner. I mean, as we all know, the timer starts when the unit goes down. It's not when you get there. So however long it takes them to call you and then you get dispatched and all the rest of that, you're starting behind right out of the gate, and then so this can help you get that information a lot faster to reduce that time.
Another useful,
what was that?
Sorry to interrupt you there, James, but another useful thing on the GREE Assistant is that you have a link to the error code troubleshooting tool there. So you don't have to go to the website. It's just there right at your fingertips with all the videos.
Right. Another thing too is that you will, we constantly update these videos. We constantly, if we're reminded of best practices or something like that, or we get some kind of tip from the field. I mean, there's a lot of information that we get back from you guys too, because we're not out there putting hands on necessarily every single day. You know, there's information that we get back from you guys. So, you know, all of a sudden we have a new video idea. We update that. We've got already an extensive library, but we've got more and more videos in the works, you know, just trying to get that information out there. I mean, we do in-person training and stuff like that too, right? How much do you remember from every time you attend? You know, Greg and I recently did a class, I believe that was last week, but we did a class and, you know, we really got into like component level troubleshooting, you know, and how much of these components are universal. You know, they're not, you know, we can talk features and benefits, bells and whistles, if you want to say that. We can do that all day, but at the same time, there's only so many different ways every manufacturer, for example, can do the very thing that we're talking about doing. Like, you know, inverter-driven compressors, for example. There's ways to check those inverters regardless of the brand. So if that can help you, I mean, I really don't want us to help everybody else, you know, brand-wise, but, you know, if it does help you, we're not trying to pretend that we're the only ones that do things a certain way, you know. Unfortunately, if you go out to a brand-specific training, they're talking about it like they're the only ones that do it that way, you know? It's not their fault. Sometimes it's the first time they've ever gotten that in depth on, you know, on an inverter-driven piece of equipment, for example. So, you know, if it helps you fix brand X or brand Y, hey, we're just going to be here for you.
Well, I've always said it was
go ahead.
Every unit has its own personalities. Every manufacturer has their own personalities, but there's a lot of shared personalities too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, the point that I made, just to break it down even further, the point that I made last week was nobody goes out and brags how their contactor works or their, you know, relay or their capacitor. Nobody says, hey, you know, we make the best capacitors or whatever, because chances are they're not making the capacitors anyway. But you're talking about the components, right? Because everybody knows how to troubleshoot a capacitor or a contactor or whatever. If you don't, hey, you know, plenty of classes online and stuff like that to teach you exactly that. When we talk about troubleshooting inverter board, we want to talk about troubleshooting inverter board in general. I mean, there may be some fine things about ours, like where the test points are located, that kind of thing. But if you can locate the test points on, you know, company M or company L or company G, if you can locate those test points on those, you can troubleshoot it just like you can, you know, with ours. So if you're talking about a contactor or a capacitor, if you put the contactor and capacitor on a board, you're basically talking about that right there, you know. So that's just one of the many ways that we've identified that we think can be helpful, because we're all bringing a lot of different experiences and all that, you know, from other manufacturers or from the field and all that. We discuss this stuff all the time, sometimes during hours, sometimes after hours, just the way it goes for us. So anything that we identify that can be helpful. I mean, if we make the job easier on you, it often makes the job easier on us, you know. So that's at least some incentive for us to do it. But anything else you guys would like to add, you know, to that, the contractor assistant?
I think that we've covered it pretty well, and I think the biggest advice I have is get on there and check it out. I played around with it a little bit already, and man, you can get the good information quickly.
Right, yeah. You know, I'll tell you, you know, we work here. You know, we've got one of our thought processes, right, is if we have to make a guide because we're having to answer the same question all the time, you know, instead of it, you know, just sitting on our computer or just being shared amongst the tech support team or among the sales team or among what, you know, product management or wherever, if it's something that's helpful with us and it's something that we're using all the time, we're going to, you know, clean it up, make it look nice, and put it on the website. You know, I use our website constantly. You know, instead of having a bunch of stuff on my desktop or whatever, I just use the website. You know, and I know that's basically what we all do at this point. You know, I'm not going to go look through a folder and go find submittals if I've got it on the website. You know, I use my phone constantly for that same thing. I use our website, my phone, and you know, it's a great.
And the problem with that is if you're downloading and saving it, you're not getting the latest one. There might be multiple revisions. There was maybe mistakes in the first one, and you've got the one with the mistakes in it rather than the one that was been updated. We do reserve the right to have, you know, improper information out there and fix the documents later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and to your point, yeah, the best way to go get the latest and greatest updated information is going to be through the website. You know, if you go get a mini split that maybe shipped 3 years ago, you know, maybe we identified a lot of things. There's like, you know, the installation guide, for instance, that, you know, that we include with our units now. A lot of those units, you know, that you may still be in stock somewhere, right? Get those moving, Daniel, you know. But you know, those units that still may be in stock may not have those helpful guides. They don't have those tips and stuff like that included with them. I mean, heck, they may not even have the QR codes if they're old enough, you know. So, you know, check out the website, use all the tools that you have available to you. So I tell you what, let's take a look at some of the questions that may have come in. Do we have any questions that have come in?
There's a few more. Daniel, I'll let you pick at one. How about that? You're good at it.
Well, I didn't have it pulled up, Greg. Hold on a second.
Yes, you did.
Let's see here. A good one we had here was what David's asking, what percent of heating capacity do the units have at -22?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I said here he says the competition is saying 75% at -22. So a little marketing trick I'll just kind of throw out here at first. What most companies will do is they'll pick one specific model in their lineup, and usually the best performing one, and they'll say, oh, these units get down to like 75% or whatever it is. But then you really dig into the data on the other ones and they get less, right? So when you're looking at this, one, it's going to vary by product, right? We say our Vireo, Envo, Sapphire, FLEXX Ultra, MultiPRO, you know, all the Ultra Heat models can go down to -22, but they're all going to be different. It's different between model series and between sizes within that model series. So I can't give you a blanket statement and say, oh yeah, 75%. So what you need to do, and this is a very important kind of lesson for everybody to latch onto anyways, go to greecomfort.com, go into the product drop down, pick whatever product you're dealing with, and then going to the extended ratings or the product data for that product. So if you go into the extended ratings, you're going to look at it, find that temperature for that model you're dealing with, and then you're actually going to see what the true capacity is. Okay, so that's the best way to see what the capacity is, what percentage of capacity it is. Because again, I'm not going to sit here and just throw out a blanket number because it's not a factually true statement across the board. So I don't like doing that. That being said, you guys need to get very familiar with extended ratings anyways, because anytime you're sizing equipment for an application, you need to be using those extended ratings for your application, for your environment, you know, your design temperatures and all that stuff. So please get familiar with those. So yeah, there's just too many variables between the models and everything for me to just say, oh yeah, it's 75%. You know, you gotta pick a specific one and ask me, and then I can tell you.
Well, I guess another way to look at it is using nominal capacity doesn't hold up in the court of law.
That's true.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, there's no such thing as a heating and air judge. You know, it's not somebody who went to law school. Also, they got 30 years of experience in heating and air. So, you know, if there were, a lot of cases would just get thrown out, right? But yeah, like, you know, to your point, Justin, like on the MultiPRO side, we can do 100% capacity at -22 out of the 3-ton unit, right? If I go to the 60,000 BTU unit, it's not 60,000 BTUs at -22. I mean, it absolutely depends on the product. And, you know, on the other side of it, what's kind of funny, if you take a look at most inverter-driven systems, you'll see, you know, like a 2-ton unit might be producing 24,000 BTUs rated. And then on the heating side, it might be, you know, closer to 30.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, manufacturers also do themselves a little bit of a disservice by saying, I do 75% at -22 because they're going 75% from their rated heating. Well, you're going in your head, you're going, it's a 2-ton unit. I'm going 75% of 2 tons. That's the heating. So it actually produces better, you know, than what's being said there. But yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, think about who told you. You know, who told you that, you know, company whatever is saying that they're doing that? Think about who's communicating that to you, and how, if that person was telling you, you thought about who it was, like if it was a sales guy, for instance, no offense to me or Daniel, or like, you know, let's say a marketing team or whatever, right? Are you going to believe them, or are you going to go grab the information from their website to go find out what their actual extended ratings are? I mean, those are the conversations that I'm regularly involved in. I'm like, hey, look, I've got their ratings right here. It does not do that. Well, they told me it did. I mean, what does that mean? You know, is he
Yeah,
going to
I
go out
was
there
just
and that
looking.
compressor, you know, for you? I mean, is he going to go out there and spin that thing faster for you? No, of course not. You know, you want the data to back that stuff up. You know, what were you going to say, Dan?
I was just looking at the extended rating on the Vireo, for instance. You know, you got a 9K that puts out 7,000, a little over 7,000 at negative 22. Then you go up to the 2-ton, and it puts out around 19,000 at negative 22. You know, that those numbers are actual, so that's, you know, what we need to look at.
Right. And, you know, instead of like you having to do math on it, that math's already been done for you. But, you know, like to Justin's point too, it is like kind of a marketing thing. We do the same thing with efficiency ratings. You know, we'll say up to 20 something SEER. Well, it's typically the smallest unit out of the whole thing. Just like on the unitary side, when they take, you know, it's a 20 something SEER 2 unit, it's only the 1.5 tons. Well, that's great. How many houses are using 1.5 ton units, you know? so, yeah. But yeah, use the extended ratings. I mean, you got the data available. Why not use it?
So there's another question come in. It says, there currently a diagnostic tool for the FLEXX 410A? That was with Randy asked that question, and there is not, and there never has been, and never will be. So the FLEXX 410A, GREE never developed a service tool for that.
It wasn't a communicating system to be able to have that function. So
that has a lot to do with it as well. Yep.
Yeah, there were prototypes, but nothing, you know, mass released.
Right.
All right. I think that's the questions.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our misnomer, our second most famous segment. According to the misnomer, let's see what we got on that. That says, as soon as I pull the disconnect, I can get to work. Oh man. You know, I've had hair standing on my, you know, on its end before, getting to work after just pulling the disconnect. No, pulling the disconnect does not guarantee that it's de-energized, right? You may have multiple power sources. You know, you could definitely have that, but I mean, I think mostly what we're going to be talking about is proving whether or not there is power. And our capacitors, we've got capacitors just like every other piece of equipment's got capacitors. They can take some time to discharge. Those capacitors are built onto the board for the most part. There are test points for those. On every single one of our inverter boards, you can measure that voltage, and after that voltage has dissipated, you can start, you know, you can get to work. Many manufacturers will tell you 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. If I told you that flipping that light switch, you know, wait 15 minutes before you start messing around with that light socket, you would probably verify that there's no voltage on it, right? So instead of waiting that long to verify that, or to guess at voltage not being there, go ahead and test it, because it can take, you know, as little as 20 seconds for it to discharge to a safe level. Generally, the safe level is going to be 50 volts DC if you're talking about the DC capacitors. Do not short them. Yeah, so just don't do that. But you want to prove that a circuit's, you know, not live, right? I mean, some people, before they cleaning coils and stuff like that, you know, they'll pull the power on it. Some people want to argue with that, but you know, that brings up a lot of other safety things too. You've got 2 eyes; it's the only ones that you have. If you've got less than 2 eyes, you got even more to lose, right? You only got one back, you know. Go ahead,
Hey.
man.
Times have you pulled the disconnect, James, and then come to find out somebody had wired it through? And so
Well,
even pulling that disconnect, it didn't disconnect power. I can't tell you
Oh.
how many times I've ran across that.
You're
And I've
trying to
never-
tell me right now that an electrician doesn't always do what they're supposed to? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, no, we're not talking about the
I
electrician.
didn't say that.
We're talking about the guy that came behind the electrician.
Okay. Somebody else not related to the job came by.
Right.
And I've seen that all too many times, but they still
Maybe
got
the
plug
neighbor
in
did
there.
it.
So you pull the plug out and you think it's that. No. Oh my God. When I was in the field, I hated that. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're going to kill somebody.
Right. I mean, I know that talking about safety isn't always the funnest thing in the world, but it's more fun than 320 volts in your hands, for example, because that's what some of our inverter systems produce.
And I think the goal at the end of the day, not just to have the system fixed, but also make it home to your family is pretty important.
Right. If you don't make it home, why are you working?
Right.
But yeah, I guess you don't want to risk serious injury or death, or I don't know, damaging the equipment, throwing your tools, whatever. I've seen many a screwdriver ruined from people using that to trip the breaker because they didn't want to go to the breaker panel. You wouldn't believe how much of an arc you'll get out of a 60 amp circuit if you're trying to trip a 60 amp breaker. You've now ruined a screwdriver, possibly a heat kit, a contactor, everything else,
Few boards.
Boards. Yeah. So, but I know we mentioned in the last video, but gloves, safety glasses, hard hat where it makes sense. The guy who makes fun of that is the one who goes home bleeding, right? So, but
Or with electrical tape wrapped around his finger.
super glue.
Yeah, super glue.
Or excuse me, whatever non-branded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Justin, you ever got hurt on the job before?
All the time, especially working with sheet metal. So
Oh, yeah, geez.
gloves, safety glasses, all that.
Yeah, sheet metal's the sharpest knife you'll ever own. Just the way it works. Oh, but yeah. So anyway, as you've always been told, treat every circuit as live until you prove it is not. So again, we've got test points on our boards. They will often be labeled as test points. Sometimes they're positive, negative. Sometimes they're plus and minus. But use those to determine whether or not you can start working. Don't disconnect or reconnect any component to those boards while it is live. Okay.
That is a huge piece of advice right there.
Yeah.
I've dealt with plenty of calls. The one that comes to mind off the top of my head is multiple calls. I've talked to guys on FLEXX units where they go to troubleshoot the unit, they kill the power and they unplug the fan motor because the board looks like it's dead. But now what they just ended up doing is now they not only need the board, they need a board and a motor.
Right.
Because when they unplugged that high DC bus, it arced, and now we've lost the board and the motor. So realistically, what the problem was to start with, it was just a bad motor. But since we unplugged that and got it to arc, now we've lost the board. So it's just one prime example of a couple different times I was put on the phone where a guy did that. And it's a prime example of why you don't want to plug and unplug while the power's still on, or you haven't given it time to discharge. So he killed the power, but he immediately went from because the unit was already opened up and everything else. So he killed the disconnect, walked around, unplugged the fan motor, or it was toast.
Right.
So you got to make sure that thing's discharged before you start unplugging things.
Right. Well, and if you do locate the test points, you're also not talking about wasting 20 minutes based on some random suggestion. What if it didn't discharge in that 20 minutes?
It's not going to feel good.
No, definitely doesn't. How do I know? All right, switching gears. Let's take a look at. We'll come back to questions in a minute. Let's take a look at the comment on a YouTube channel. On the YouTube video title, R32 launch and R410A phase out. Important dates to remember. At Michael Vandermarks-M9X, how long will parts, coolant, and resources for current systems be available for maintenance and repair? Oh, well, that should be a question for any of us, but we'll go with Justin first.
Yep, as long as they'll allow us to import it. So right now, we can continue to get parts for our R410A equipment. In fact, we're supposed to be getting more shipments, a couple of containers of parts in this week and next. And as far as I know, R410A, they're doing a phase down program on that. So like anything new imported has to be reclaimed, recycled. It can't be version R410A. But I think that should be ongoing through 2030 if they keep on track right now. With the new administration, there could be a lot of changes to that. So just stay tuned. But as of right now, for the foreseeable future, we're supposed to be able to get parts for as long as we can.
Okay, good. All right. So we'll have parts for as long as we can. All right. Let's come back to the questions. Do we have any questions that have come in since then?
We're clear.
Okay. Well, if there's anything else that you guys like to add, go ahead and do so now. I know it's a pretty quick video, but we try to get it in and out. It's summer for most of the a good bit of the United States now, or not summer, but warm enough anyway. I know a lot of people are busy. So anything you guys like to add?
Main thing I would say was, what these guys do out in this field, we talked about safety a little bit, I think technicians out there, and I was guilty of it myself when I was out in the field, you get complacent. You get used to what you're doing every day. You forget about some of those safety things. And sometimes you just need to take a step back and say, you know what, was I doing that in a safe manner? And start recalibrating your brain back to making sure you're making the right steps and you are keeping yourself safe when you're out there on the job. Because it's so easy to be, I got to get this done. I got to get this done and move. And you tend to let that safety side of it lapse. And all it takes is one time, and then you're not around to talk about it anymore. So,
right.
I just can't stress enough. What we do is dangerous. I've seen guys, damaged, hurt by spinning condenser fan blades because they got too complacent, put their hand where they shouldn't have.
Well,
Didn't have to make sure the power was down and the thing discharged before they're getting their hands in there. Not being careful where your hands are while you got a machine opened up and you're troubleshooting. You got a voltmeter, especially with these inverter driver boards, you got all those capacitors sticking up. The backside of that capacitor, all you got to do is touch that, stand on some wet grass, or have your other hand in the wrong place, and you're going to get it. So, I just can't stress enough, guys, to slow down a little bit. There's no service call out there worth somebody's life for losing a limb.
All right. Well, there's also, since it's going to be getting hot, there's also acclimation too. There's some things that you might be acclimated to. And for your senior technicians out there, you might have younger guys working with you, not experienced, not acclimated, not accustomed to working in some of these areas and all that. I mean, we can laugh and joke about it all day, but the reality is, they could end up getting, heat stroke, something like that. I mean, I've worked with a number of people that have been forced to get out of the field due to injury, things like heat strokes and, other just physical injuries, that kind of thing.
Especially in those attics as we move into the hot season.
Yeah. With ductless equipment, you can get the equipment out of the attic, by the way. I just want to throw that out there now. But you don't have to go up there anymore. Yeah, it's very dangerous. That kind of heat like that, or up on rooftops and all that. Bring water with you. Bring it with you. My goodness, you got to have it. I'll just be up there 10 minutes. That's a lie. You know that. Like we used to say it was a curse. So you go, oh, well, this shouldn't take too long. Well, you're about to be there for 3 days.
Yeah.
So, but being just a little bit prepared for stuff like that, keeping an eye out for some of the other guys that you got working with you. Especially young guys, stay out late partying and stuff like that, and then come to work. They're probably already dehydrated. You don't want them dying on your job. You know, but anyway, so all right, so that does it for this episode of Talking Comfort Live. We will see you next month, the first Wednesday of next month, or June 4th. Go ahead and give the GREE Contractor Assistant a try, or go ahead and give it an attempt. Go play around with it, so you can find the information that you want even quicker when you need it. And that's GREEPros.com. Our next video is going to be on the 15th of this month, so just a little over a week from today at 11 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be multi-zone troubleshooting. So be sure to check that out. Register for that. You can register for that via our GREEComfort.com website under our training or our live training seminars. You can see that on the screen now. But without, if nothing else, we'll see you next time, and stay safe out there. And remember, at GREE,
We're by your side.
By your side.
Please like or subscribe to our channel at GREE Comfort on YouTube, and head over to GREEComfort.com/training for more tips and tricks and all the information you need to help you out in the field. And that was a good show.